Hi friends! I'm here to deal with a new problem in the garden. It seems sometimes like a garden is one problem after another, and it kind of is, but today's problem is an easy fix, and you'll get to follow me along the way and see how quickly the problem fixes itself after I help it out a little bit. So the problem we're going to deal with today isn't a bug this time. It is a chemical imbalance, and it's on my tomatoes, and it's very common. It is called blossom end rot. Now the tomatoes have two ends to them. The one that the stem grows from, it's actually the one attached to the plant, and the other end is the blossom end, where you'll have a flower that becomes a fruit, and this is the end that the blossom started out on. See how it's black and discolored? Looks kind of gross. Now they say that you can actually eat this tomato by cutting off that bad spot, but I tend to pick them and I toss them out to the jackrabbits. But that's blossom end rot. This is a severe one. As often as I'm in my garden, I was actually very surprised to walk out and find how severe this one was, like I just missed it, or it really happened that quick. And here's one a little less severe, but nevertheless, blossom end rot. Blossom end rot is a sure sign that your tomatoes need calcium. I'm going to throw these out. The jackrabbits will come up and have a great time with them. Not harmful to them at all, not harmful to us, they're just kind of gross. So I want to add calcium to my soil. That's what that tells me. And one of the quickest ways, kind of an emergency relief system here for my poor tomatoes, is to add lime, pelletized lime. That is going to deliver some calcium to my plants in a form that they can pick it up and accept it. Now, as you remember, in my super soil and this spring, earlier spring when I was mixing, I was putting eggshells in my garden. And I was very careful to let you know that those eggshells are going to take a year at least to break down into a form of calcium that the plants can uptake. But this form right here, pelletized lime in water, will absorb more quickly into the plants and help correct and turn around my blossom end rot in my tomatoes. So my proportions are about a good handful per gallon. So these are the 5-gallon buckets that I use for just about everything, and one of the biggest reasons I use a 5-gallon bucket is because I can carry just about anything in a 5-gallon bucket except rocks. Now water gets kind of heavy, and sometimes I will only do a half of that, which would be 2.5 gallons. But anything bigger than that, which you would think, oh, I'm gonna water a whole lot with this slurry that I made, but it's just difficult to carry. So for me, I mix a lot in half of the 5-gallon bucket or the full 5-gallon bucket. I put about a handful per gallon. And this is probably a little less than 5, but I did put 4 good handfuls in this, and I'm just mixing it up. It's perfectly fine to use your hose water, your groundwater. I used the rainwater because I have it readily available. That's why I'm over here by the tank. We've got fixtures set up at the bottom and a hose on it for all my mixing. I use the rainwater because it doesn't have the chlorine in it, it doesn't have the chloramine in it. And my tank's pretty full right now, and we have more rain coming, so I'm not in danger of losing any of that. This is the rain tank that I have definitely showed you in other videos, but it's super handy for watering, and it's super handy for mixing my slurries and fertilizers, my worm tea, compost tea, but definitely for my lime I wanted to use a non-chlorinated. And it's not a deal breaker. It's perfectly fine to use your groundwater, your tap water. I just tend to use the rainwater because it's available to me and we're not low on it. If we were low and, wanted to make sure we had enough to water the grapes, the garden, or anything else we might need water for, then I would just use plain old tap water with this. but I'm going to use the rainwater because it's what's available. Once I've stirred it enough, I'm just going to dip my watering can down in it. Of course, it would be probably easier if I carried this whole bucket over to the garden, but again, water gets pretty heavy, and 5 gallons of water can be heavier than my weak little arms can handle. So I just dip my watering can in it and head over to the garden. I had to work a really long day yesterday and didn't get to come out in the garden. Thankfully, my sweet baby Ray watered the garden for me, especially the seeds that I had planted. But today when I came out, I was just like, oh my God, I only missed one day, and look at these plants. I mean, look at these Kajari melons climbing like crazy. They've got their tendrils, they're wrapping around the trellises. And what's really freaking me out are these noodle beans. Just the other day I showed you these noodle beans, and now every time I look at this, it has grown taller and taller and taller. It is climbing this trellis, and I bet it starts setting flowers and fruit before you know it. But back to my poor diseased tomatoes. Container tomatoes, and especially Roma tomatoes and other varieties, are especially susceptible to blossom end rot. Now these last two right here are my determinate Romas, and that's the one I pulled all of those blossom end rot tomatoes off of that I just showed you. Now it does have, oh, there's another one right there. You can see it already. I was gonna say it does have some very healthy looking tomatoes on it. This one is not experiencing blossom end rot. These two look pretty good, but then again, here's one right here. As they get a little bit older, a little bit more mature, there's another one. I'm not interested in trying to save that one. It's not, once it looks like that, it's not going to turn around. But me putting the slurry in there, I'm hoping that it'll turn the plant. I'm really hoping that this will turn the plant around. And I am going to go ahead and put this slurry on every single one of my containers, because I planted them all in exactly the same soil. And even though the rest of these tomatoes are not showing the signs of blossom end rot, I do believe that as they are growing, all of them, and they're just in these containers, they're not in the good earth that can go, you know, feet and feet down, and the roots seek out what they need. They're not down in the earth that they can just keep looking for that calcium. So I do believe that I'm going to go ahead and put the slurry in every single one of the plants, because they're just doing nothing but growing, and they're, you know, sucking all the nutrients out of the soil, and that those nutrients do need to be replenished. So this is the next morning after applying the slurry. I came out as early as I could come out and just check to make sure the plants still look good. You never know when you apply something how they're going to handle it, and they look none the worse for wear. So I won't know if the blossom end rot turns around for a few days. Just making sure, you know, just checking frequently to see that the fruit's not showing any more signs of it and that we got it turned around. But mostly I just was sitting out on a beautiful morning, listening to the sights and sounds of morning, enjoying my plants, and a day off from work, which is always very nice. I thank you all so much for watching my blossom end rot video today. Please hit like and subscribe, and come back for more. Thanks for watching.